guys, how you going? Kelly Humphries, author, speaker, survivor, and whatever else you want to call me. But we're here today. I'm here with Holly and Martin from Safe4Kids. We are doing Talk and Tell with Holly and Kel over the next 12, maybe more weeks, depending on what shows up in this time. But we're here in order to protect kids and empower families with prevention and education around child protection issues. So we're going to explore, and when I say explore, I talk about in the most authentic and real way possible. We're going to open up some very big conversations, and we will invite you to join us in those conversations with your questions, thoughts. Maybe you're struggling with something, but we will explain how through this process you can connect with us and join in on these conversations with us. So I'll just hand over to Holly so she can introduce herself to you, and we'll get into what we're going to cover over the next 12 plus weeks.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, I'm Holly Ann from Safe4Kids. Safe4Kids is a company that teaches abuse prevention education. So I train teachers, parents, childcare workers, and create resources to help parents have these conversations with children about keeping safe. And because I'm always looking at trying to create the best resources ever, I watched Insight where Kelly was on the panel, and I was so taken by the way she spoke so openly about what happened to her as a child. So I reached out to her because I was so inspired to hear her story and pick her brain basically to find out what resource could I produce that might have helped her when she was a child, disclose a lot earlier than she did. So over the coming weeks, you're going to hear more about Kelly's story if you missed it on Insight. Actually, we might even share a link.
We'll drop it in the link. Yeah,
because I really recommend that you go and hear her story because it was so powerful. Those of you who follow my Facebook page may have already seen it because I've shared it a couple of times. I'm such a fan.
Well, it'll give context, and I don't actually then have to go and explain it all again, so it'll be great.
So we're going to just come to you with our both experiences because they're quite different. And Kelly's also, she admitted to say that she's a serving police officer. So she's got many different experiences as well as having lived a lived experience. She also has her police hat as well. So between the two of us, we think we're going to be able to give you some really insightful ways of helping keep your kids safe. Back to you, Kel.
Yeah, no, that's right. So I guess I just should put a disclaimer in the whole that I can't really come from a police hat in this, except that it is and does form part of my experience. So I'm not going to give you police advice on here.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that.
No, you're right. But I do need to actually say it very clearly from the beginning because I can't be putting myself in a position where, if you make some sort of disclosure to me during this process that I then have to act on that. So if you do have something, we'll give you strategies, we'll give you tools, we'll direct you where you need to go to make your complaints, and give you some tips around how to make those or take those disclosures from your kids. But yeah, it's really important that as I'm doing this, I'm doing it from my experience. Everything I say is my opinion, it's my research, and it's coming from a place of basically I'm telling you what I think. And I'm going to tell you that as authentically as I can through the research I've done and the experiences that I've had. And so, just to recap, yes, I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. So my uncle sexually abused me from the age of 8 until 15. I've been a serving police officer for 12 years, and I've got significant experience working with child protection. But again, that's not my first and foremost thing. This is what I'm doing here from the heart of a survivor, to empower you, to empower your kids, to empower your family, to act protectively towards your kids and your future, basically. So just moving forward, Holly and I both share the same vision, and that's basically to empower and protect kids and families. Like, for me, the reason I do this is because I don't want to see anyone go through what I went through as a child. And I look at my experience and I think, oh, that's just a textbook 101 child abuse case. And I look at some of the things that I've heard and seen in my time, and I think, geez, my story's nothing compared to somebody else's that I've heard. But one really important thing, and we forget, is trauma affects everybody differently, and we can't put a measure on how that trauma affects somebody, because it depends on where you've grown up, who you are, who's around you, what tools you have available to you, and how you deal with it. Because one little thing that happens to somebody could deeply impact them, and the same thing could happen to somebody else and it mean nothing. So it just really depends on who you are. So trauma is measured differently, and I'll put that out to start with straight away. Is there's no expectations or no pressure, no shame. Anything you ever want to share with Holly and myself is safe. This is a safe space. There is no judgment here. There's nothing that you can say to us that I guarantee you we probably haven't heard a similar story before. And sadly, that's not to undermine your experience. It's to let you know you're not alone and that there's no shame in sharing what's happened to you. Did you want to add anything just to that whole?
No, just to reiterate everything that you've said, Kelly, that, you know, if people private message us, you know, we won't be sharing, you know, we, like you said, we want it to be a safe place.
Yeah.
But, and, you know, we're very aware that if the statistics are 1/3 of children suffer sexual abuse, then 1/3 of our viewers may, you know, have their own backstories and history around this. So if at any time, you know, any of what we share is triggering for anybody, then, you know, we will always in the link, always have, you know, lifeline and numbers that people can ring. Because, you know, we're not about
happy people. Yeah, and happy people to connect to us and stuff like that. But just be mindful, we're only one, both of us only one person. So, you know, we're here to help, here to empower. But yeah, definitely want you to feel safe. And if you want to share your story or you want, you know, questions or whatever, we're happy to do that. Happy to facilitate that as well. So moving forward to the next 12 plus weeks, Holly and I are still sort of discussing exactly how this is going to look, but what the plan for our series is to basically, we're going to pre-record a video so that we can talk about the main issue, upload it, allow you guys to throw in your questions, thoughts, and then have a live where we get you to come on board to ask the questions to us, post them in the feed, and that way we can actually make sure we've got the answers for you. So the dates will vary. Unfortunately, I'm still a shift worker, so I can't commit to the same time every week, but it may actually be work to people's benefit for that to happen anyway. So have I got that right, Hol?
Yep, no, you're exactly on it. Well done.
Okay, sweet. No worries. I'm a brain fried today. So some of the things that we really want to cover during this series, especially, is to provide a foundation around the signs of child abuse. And a lot of people don't want to talk about, you know, the physical signs of child abuse because it's pretty icky, some of the stuff, but we're going to go there. We need to go there, and it's an important conversation. There's the psychological, emotional, what have I missed? Hang on. Physical, psychological, emotional signs of child abuse. I've missed something, haven't I?
No. Yeah. Sorry. No, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go through those at the very beginning of this series, and then step into grooming. Grooming is a very complex topic to talk about, and I know that a lot of people, especially just recently, have had some people reach out and connect to just find, like I say, how do you find out about it? Like, what does it look like? How do you know what's happening? You know, what does it even mean? What is grooming? What is the purpose of grooming? You know, there's a lot of things that happen in that space, and if we can identify child abuse predators in that grooming stage, we have 100% more than 100%, but we have a lot greater chance of preventing child abuse from occurring in the future if we know what that looks like. And I know it's a deeply complex area. Holly, have you got some, I know you do a lot of work with grooming. What are some of the things that you think we might be able to get into during that grooming?
Well, just, you know, how, you know, adults don't, I work a lot in remote communities. So when I'm working with local people in communities, I actually call it friending them up, because,
Yeah, right.
grooming is a white, adult word. With children, we might just talk about tricky people. So, we need to talk about tricky people for children, but also talk about, how people the process that predators go to before they offend against a child. They don't just go straight towards the child. And so, with your experiences, you'll be able to talk about how they gain community,
Trust. The
trust.
trust, yeah.
Yeah. Then the parents' trust, then the child's trust, and all that sort of stuff. So we'll cover all of that in that episode.
Yeah, and it's hard too, because people forget that child sexual abuse happens behind closed doors, and 90% of the time it's with somebody who is known to the child. And unfortunately, it's because of that we don't always pick up on it. And there's a lot of people that blame themselves for what's happened to their children because they didn't know about the grooming. So a lot of times people just think, it's the victim that's groomed, but actually it's actually a whole family that's groomed. So it starts with the family. To gain trust of the family, then it's the child. And so we'll go right into that. We'll go into the 6 stages of control in grooming and get right into how it actually happens. So then we'll step into the silence of sexual abuse and trauma, not just from a victim's perspective, but also a bystander. So there's 2 different ways that people don't speak about child abuse: from the victim's point of view and somebody who's seen it happen or thinks it might be happening or has an idea that it might be happening, and what they then do about what they think or see or feel. And, there's a lot of people that will say, I told my mum and dad, or I told my friend that it happened and they didn't do anything. And it's about the why they didn't do anything that we're going to have that discussion, because there's a lot of things that we can do and change through education and awareness that allows the bystander to feel more empowered to then break that silence. Because you're talking about kids that are experiencing the most scary thing in their life, and somebody who might actually know about it. And, look, I've had disclosures where the mother or the father has allowed abuse to continue knowingly in the house. And I know, Holly, you've had the same thing, and won't say anything. They've had the child reveal what's happening at home and don't report it. Okay, there's organisations that haven't reported it. And it's the reasons those things happen and why they stay quiet that we're going to open up that. And it's probably going to open up a can of worms, but we're having that conversation. We're going to explore that conversation, because by understanding those things and why a victim will remain silent through the shame and the feelings around what's actually going on for somebody. And that's something I'm very passionate about, is breaking the silence and what's actually going on for a victim in that space, because it is crippling. The anxiety and the fear is crippling. And, whether it's a bystander or a victim, they both feel very different, but both feel very much the same. They just don't have a voice and don't know how to voice that thing that's going on. So we're going to break that thing out and have a big conversation around that. So
and then that'll lead perfectly into the week after, where we're going to talk about how to receive a disclosure and, give adults strategies to do what if a child does tell them that something happened, because that's a missing link. It must be every parent's greatest fear. What if my child told me this was going to happen? Or realistically, it might be your child's best friend is telling you something. So we'll go into how an adult takes a disclosure in whatever role they are in kids' lives.
Yeah, and I think we need to probably, in that space, just putting on my other hat, which I'm not going to do very often, but there's a lot of things that you should just not do. If your child's revealed something to you, you really want the behaviour of the predator to stop. Well, hopefully that's at the forefront of your mind. But there's certain ways to go about doing that, and to do it in such a way that if you were to make a criminal report, and how you question your child or don't question your child could actually be It's very significant in the steps that are to follow. So we're going to talk about some of the ways to make sure that you do your best by your child in how you take that disclosure and what sort of questions, because you're naturally like, oh, who did it? What did they do? Why did they do that? I'm so angry at them, you know, and you're probably swearing you want to kill them. There's a lot of things that come out. I'm gonna fucking kill them. There's nothing that I haven't heard. Okay. So, you know, it's a very hard conversation to have, because I know there's a lot of parents that have heard that from their kids and have done their very best and done amazing. But there's others that I know have been really angry. And what happens in that space is such a delicate tightrope. And it's not to create fear, but it's actually to empower you to make really positive decisions when your child actually does come to you and says, you know, my uncle's touched me in my vagina, or, you know, my big brother's touched my penis, you know, and they're the words we're going to start using. It's a bit awkward to talk about because it's not our everyday language. So it's important. And Holly's got some great tools around disclosure, so that's really powerful. We'll talk about that a bit later. But we are also going to have that conversation about our body parts. We are going to say the word penis, and we are going to say the word vagina.
And vulva. Don't forget the vulva.
Oh, vulva. Yes. Vulva. What's that again? No. But we are going to talk about that, and we have to talk about that because it's so important. You know, people call them the fufu or a golf stick or, you know, fanny or ding dong or diddle, or I'm sure you can come up with a million names. Holly, you probably heard a million being.
Wait till that episode. I've got a list a mile long.
We should come up with a list. That's terrible. No, let's not do that. Yeah, it's important. And did you want to talk about anything about the body parts?
Oh no, I think you've covered it. I think we'll, you know, really expand on that in the episode. But just talk about we're not doing it. There is a reason that we do it. Knowing the correct anatomical names can be a protective factor, because people during the grooming process, look, if children are not using those words, then they're more likely to go after the child. But also, you know, it's just empowering. And so, you know, we'll cover all of that in that episode. And then it will lead perfectly on to the next week when we talk about children seeing pornography and how to have that conversation with children as well.
Yeah, because so many kids are online at the moment. And I know from my experience working in high schools particularly, it's where kids are going now for their I guess, what do you call it, sex education, because we're not running those programs in schools. And it's not to have a go at schools. Gosh, they do such an incredible job, and they have so much they have to fit in their curriculum. It's absolutely ridiculous, the pressure that teachers are under. So I understand that, and it's hard because kids don't want to have conversations with their parents about how to have sex, and like, what do I put a condom on, and you know, what do I need to do? How do I make my girlfriend happy? How do I make my boyfriend happy? How do I please them? And so when they start asking these questions online, the first thing that pops up is pornography. And so they're learning all this stuff from pornography sites that's not necessarily good, you know, and, you know, they're getting onto some really unhealthy sites. And those places attract a lot of unhealthy people. So that's where we have a problem. That's only the beginning.
And so we'll also go into, you know, how predators can use it for the grooming process as well.
Yes.
But it's not scary. And, you know, I'm a great advocate for teaching about pornography from the age of 6. So, you know, I'll give some strategies around how you talk to 6-year-olds about pornography and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's really good because I think the grooming process of the online stuff and what's actually happening, like we could talk for days and days about what's going on in the online world. And the things that, like, even things like dick pics, so call it a dick pic, sexting, you know, they're little things.
Teenagers don't call it sexting, they call them nudes, apparently.
Nudes, well, look, it's basically the new dating thing. And if you haven't sent a nude, then you're not cool. So you know, there's a lot of things going on there, and a lot of that is attached to offences as well. And kids forget that, and teenagers forget that, but it does actually lead, especially for young children. We could have like a Peppa Pig video playing on YouTube, and all of a sudden you've got a predator in the middle of that grooming somebody. So, you know, it happens, it is happening. There's ways to report it, and there's ways to be empowered around that, because I know for a lot of parents, the whole internet scene is so overwhelming. Knowing about apps, knowing how to protect your kids, being able to monitor screen time, all that sort of stuff is a very overwhelming process for those of us who are not technologically literate. Is that right? Is that even a saying? I don't even know.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Yeah, like I'm okay with computers, but I'm not great. And so, you know, there's a lot of stuff I don't particularly know, but I can and have spoken a lot about cyber safety. And I'm very aware of what's going on in some of those areas. And Holly, I know you teach a lot about child pornography, so we're going to have some big conversations. And again, the whole feedback and the questions you have about it at the end of any of our sessions are going to be so valuable to the people out there, because if you have the question, someone else is going to want to know as well. So by doing it the way that we're going to do it and preloading the video, it gives us that time to make sure that if we and we didn't say this earlier, but there may be opportunity for us to reach out to other experts in our community, because we're both very well connected with child protection experts, to bring them into this and help speak into some of these specific areas that maybe Holly and I don't know everything about, which we don't know everything, either of us, but you know, we're going to do our very best to explore these topics that haven't previously been spoken about like this, maybe. So
definitely.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to run through the you know, give adults the skills of the whole program, the protective education program. So right from talking about feelings and early warning signs to helping set up a safety team of 5 people, just to give people the tools that they need. It's not up to kids to keep themselves safe, but kids are the last line of defense. So we do have to upskill kids as well, but it's not scary.
No, it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of people are like, oh, should I be telling them about the sexual abuse that happened to me as a kid? And I'm like, yes, you really should. It's actually quite empowering. And I knew a lot about my mum, for example, when she was being, well, as we were growing up sort of thing. I mean, she'd had a tough life and been fostered. I didn't know about her sexual abuse. And had I known that, maybe things would have been different, because I very well understood where she'd come from. And I made allowances for that in my behaviours and my actions, because I was like, oh, mum's had a tough life. Like, she's done this, this and this. You know, if I'd known about this other stuff, I would have been like, oh, it's just like mum. She will understand. She will get it. And so, yes, there's lots of things we should be sharing with our kids that we think, oh, we better not do that. We better not wrap them in bubble wrap, or we should be wrapping them in bubble wrap. We want them to stay safe. We don't want them to hear this. We don't want them to see that. Do you know what? They probably already know, or they're watching it, or they're hearing it. You know, we think our kids are really innocent, but they're not. Sorry. You know, and so we owe it to them to be really honest. And, you know, there's an age-appropriate way to have some of these conversations. And we'll talk about that as well. Holly's got some great kids books that she's written about some of those conversations. So yeah, we're just gonna crack this open. I'm actually really excited, because there's a lot of people that will ask me questions all the time, and you know, it's so easier to go and sit there and sit on a phone with somebody or type out and have this chat over a couple of weeks about things. But if we can just do this and have these big conversations, hopefully we can answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. So
and Kelly, if people are finding, you know, what we're sharing useful, for them to please share it with other people, because quite often, you know, I know on my Facebook page, people will like things, or they might even, you know, put a comment or private message me, but it's the sharing of this with other people that is so powerful. So if people could be brave enough to share it with everybody they know, they just don't. It's like a stone in a pond, and it's the ripples that move out. So we really want people not just to like stuff or, you know, put the thumbs up, actually take action and share it.
Yeah, and I think that's a responsibility for that each of us has. Like, we're all in this battle together to protect kids. And whether you know it or not, like you're saying, Holly, it's the whole ripple effect. There's people in my community, and we just make these assumptions, right? We're like, oh, they could never, this is never their story because they're so bubbly and they're so happy and they're this and that. But I guarantee you, the most bubbly and happy people are bubbly and happy because they know they've had the hardest fails and the hardest adversity in their life. And so they've got a story. They absolutely have a story. And if the statistics are 1 in 5 women, maybe even less, and 1 in 6 men, or 1 in 10, it just depends where you look at your stats, have been sexually abused before the age of 18 by somebody known to them, then we're looking at a good third of our population, at least, that has been involved in a sexual assault or sexual abuse incident of some kind.
And that's the whole spectrum. So, you know, when people hear sexual abuse, they just think, you know, somebody touching children. But it could be being, you know, an old man flashing them at a bus stop, or children being exposed to pornography. It's no matter what the act was. A lot of people, when I'm talking, they go, oh, is that sexual abuse? Oh, yeah, that happened to me when I was a kid. But they didn't actually ever link it with abuse. So,
yeah.
So
and
it's rip the scab off.
Yeah, that's right. But it's a sexual violence and sexual abuse is a term that it encompasses all those things, like you're saying, Holly. Like, we forget those other spectrum things and we just bundle into like one little thing. So, and we automatically think child abuse is the 1%, which is like in a park or a public space, which is what the media portrays. But we're talking about the other, like 90% of offences happening behind closed doors. That's where we're going.
And 45% is children on children or teenagers on children.
Yeah, peer-to-peer sexual violence, yep.
All of that we'll be covering because, you know, nobody is talking about that. I did a video about it recently. Sorry?
I'm going to write that down. That's going to make number 11. Peer-to-peer sexual violence. It's actually not it's not something I cover in my book because that's not my experience, but it is something that comes to me so frequently, it's not funny. And I am just going to throw this out there randomly, but there are normal behaviours with children who sexually explore their sexuality. So they might show each other their body parts, and that's a normal behaviour. But it's when it steps past that normal behaviour that it becomes something else, and that's the part that there's no education or awareness around, and we haven't spoken about because we just don't want to go there and say, oh, I did this with my brother, oh, shame. Like, yes, I know that was very dismissive, but that's kind of how it is. Like, people are dismissing it because they don't want to go there. It is different to an adult who you trust, but it's still a violation of personal boundaries that we need to get involved. And I think that will actually bring about a lot of freedom for people as we can start to open that up. So
definitely. And it's about also, you know, if there was power and control, whether if they were coerced or threatened, if you tell, if it's just you show me yours, I'll show you mine. Like you say, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I'm seeing and hearing a lot of, it is, you know, it's not normal stuff, and we have to have that conversation. So I'm glad you're adding it to our list.
Yeah, no, and just when you said that, Holly, I'm having a brainwave. This happens a lot. It's going to happen, you guys, in the middle of these conversations, be like, hang on, ding, ding. But what is normal and what is not, because I think we need to define those two things, because there's a lot of people that think their normal sexual behaviors are abnormal and there's something wrong with them. And I think we need to actually have a conversation around, you know, what that looks like with kids. What's normal? It's like, oh, my kid's touching their willy. Well, guess what? Kids touch their willy. Sorry, you know. And it's the same with girls. Like, you know, they touch themselves. And so you might say, oh, that's bad. My kid's doing this. There's something wrong with them. They're sexually perverted. No, they're not. They're just sexual beings. We're all sexual beings. And I'm hoping that through these conversations that we're having, we're going to release and set you free on a few things that maybe you thought were bad, but are actually quite normal. And I think it's an important distinction to make, because, you know, we get very caught up on what society says is bad and what's actually a normal process and part of a life cycle.
Funnily enough, I'm in the middle of writing a book exactly about that.
Oh, good. Well, maybe we should talk about that more.
It's going to be my 6th children's book. So, yeah.
Well, stay tuned. Log into Holly's website. But yeah, so we're going to do that, and we're going to go into, so Holly's going to talk about our protective behaviours program. I'm going to give you some, by then I'll have them written properly and finished, hopefully. But we're going to do a cap of what both her and I do, and, you know, provide those links to you, and our cyber safety stuff. So we've got lots to cover. It's exciting, but I'm so pleased to be partnering with Holly to do this because, well, to be honest and be truthful, she said she's going to help me boost my profile. So, you know, she's been in the game a lot longer than myself. And it is one of the beautiful things about speaking up is you find people that are passionate like you find other survivors, you find your tribe. And our tribe is people who are passionate about child protection. So if you know people like that, people who are all for child safety. So this is a series, and it's not just for like mums and dads. This is a series for educators, leaders, anyone who, it's anyone, because I guarantee you, you know the 1 in 5, but you don't know that you know them. Okay. And you know the 1 in 6, but you don't know that you know them because this is a silent problem. I got people that still won't like my post because they're afraid I'm going to think they were abused as a child. True story, because it's taken them 3 years to send me a message and say that's me. So I get it, okay? But as Holly said, be brave, please, and share what we're giving, because you don't know who you're going to empower, protect, by sharing our information and what we're going to give in this next in this series. So if you're part of a government organisation and you want your workers to hear what we've got to say in the next 12 weeks, put it on their list of things to do, because I guarantee you're not going to be disappointed. I know Holly's got a great wealth of experience. I don't give you anything but my utmost truth. It's just, I can't lie. It's not good. It's not a good look. But we will absolutely bring you everything that we've said, if not more. There's going to be more that comes up for people in this process. And if you've got something coming up now, say, oh, I need to know about this. Or Holly, like, I'd love some of your resources. Or Kel, what are your programs? Like, I want to be more informed. We both have websites. Mine is kellyhumphries.com. Holly, did you just want to share out your website?
So Safe4Kids.com.
Yeah, no worries. So I've got a little thing down the bottom which says subscribe. I don't spam because I don't have time for that. So you're not going to get a million emails from me. I'm going to send something out when I start a program, and it's not crazy like that. But we're on our Facebook pages, Kelly Humphries Speaker, and Holly's got her Safe4Kids Facebook page. We're going to be posting our lives each week, and we're going to have a question and answer on each individual video that we do. So get your questions, get your friends, share, let them know that we're going to be doing this over the next 12 plus weeks. And I'll say 12 plus, it's actually going to end up being 24 weeks because of how we've just decided to run this series. And I think it actually works better for both of us to do it that way, and we can empower more people because we can give you the answers you need. So yeah, Holly, have you got anything you want to add? I'm just going off here.
No. So I'm really, share. And also you mentioned that if people want to share the information in their organisations, this will also, as well as being on Facebook, we'll also share it on YouTube. So there'll be a YouTube URL so people can email it to their staff. It'll be shared on LinkedIn and things like that, because we just need everybody to know how to keep children safe. And that's both of our goals. And, you know, it's going back to the old, it takes a village.
Yeah, it really does.
And, you know, we're inviting everybody into our village, and we just want to keep kids safe.
Beautiful. All right, guys. So looking forward to our journey together as we go through this. Stay tuned for dates because they are probably going to change for our live Q&As, like I said. So just stay tuned, stay focused, stay involved with us as we go through this journey because if you do have those questions, we really want to be able to answer them for you. So to try and be available. And if we can't, you know, both of us are happy for a personal message or something like that and we'll get back to you. So. All right, no worries. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. We're going to see you soon.
See you,
Talk and tell with Holly and Kel. Love it.